I seem to be able to put my feelings down in a song easier than I can talk about it. I play me better than anybody.
They once called him the Buddha of country music, the man with no hate in his heart, but at 92, that halo's cracked. Willie Nelson isn't preaching peace anymore. He's pulling back the curtain. Now he's calling out 7 artists who betrayed him, mocked his beliefs, or turned friendship into straight-up rivalry. Some were legends, some were family, and one name? You won't believe he ever despised them. Number 1, Garth Brooks, the showman Willie never trusted. At the top of Willie Nelson's list sits the man everyone else calls a hero, Garth Brooks. The irony still makes old Nashville insiders shake their heads in disbelief. Garth built an empire off country music's bones, but Willie swears he also buried its heart. Back in the 90s, while Willie was still riding dusty fairgrounds with Trigger on his lap, Garth was flying above packed arenas, surrounded by fireworks and flashing lights. To the crowd, it was magic. But to Willie, it was a funeral for everything country music used to mean. "You can't sell struggle if you've never lived it," he told one of his bandmates after watching Garth perform Friends in Low Places like it was a Broadway act. The tension finally boiled over in 2004 at the Country Music Hall of Fame. On stage, Garth smiled wide, calling Willie the conscience of country music. Cameras loved it, but backstage, Willie gave him a cold stare and whispered, "Next time, sing it like you mean it." That one sentence tore through Nashville like wildfire. From that night on, Willie refused every duet, every shared stage, every photo op involving Garth Brooks. He couldn't stand how Garth had turned the genre into what he called plastic perfection. Number 2, Shania Twain, the queen who broke Willie's faith in country. Willie Nelson never cared for glitter or glitz, but Shania Twain made him furious. He once joked her concerts looked more Vegas than Nashville, and he wasn't joking when he said it. For a man who'd built his life on raw honesty, watching Shania turn heartbreak into choreography felt like betrayal. Their feud started in the late 90s when Shania's crossover hits like "Man, I Feel Like a Woman." And "That Don't Impress Me" much ruled every radio station. Nashville was thrilled, but Willie wasn't. He told a sound engineer on tour, "Country's supposed to bleed, not sparkle." The quote spread fast. Before long, everyone knew Willie couldn't stand the pop country wave Shania was leading. The breaking point came at the CMA Awards. Shania snagged Entertainer of the Year while Willie sat a few rows behind, stone-faced. Cameras caught him clapping politely, but backstage he muttered to a friend, "Entertainer maybe, but that ain't country." Moments later, Shania approached with a smile and a handshake. Willie nodded once and walked right past her. Some called it arrogance, but Willie called it honesty. He believed she'd traded truth for trends, pain for production, soul for sequence. Even now, mention her name around him and he changes the subject fast. For a man who's forgiven almost everyone, Shania Twain is still the one who never made it back into his circle. Number 3, Waylon Jennings, the brother who turned his back. Out of everyone on Willie Nelson's list, the name that cuts deepest is Waylon Jennings. This wasn't some PR feud. This was family. They built the outlaw country movement side by side, 2 rebels rewriting Nashville's rulebook. But behind the friendship, something darker was brewing: jealousy, resentment, and silence. Willie saw Waylon as a brother, a kindred spirit who believed in real music over fake fame. But when fame hit hard, Waylon started to drift, chasing the same spotlight they once mocked. Their bond cracked under the weight of ego and exhaustion. To outsiders, it looked like just another breakup between stars. But to Willie, it felt like betrayal carved into his soul. Even years later, he never fully forgave Waylon for walking away from what they built together. That wound never healed. And to this day, when people talk about the outlaw era, Willie still says quietly, "It wasn't supposed to end like that." It all began with fame, and how it poisoned brotherhood. By the late 70s, Waylon Jennings was done watching every headline say, "Willie and Waylon" instead of "Waylon and Willie." The order of 2 names shouldn't matter, but in Nashville it did. And it drove Waylon wild. He started showing up late to sessions, drinking harder and arguing over songwriting credits. People close to them said Waylon would roll his eyes every time someone called Willie the face of outlaw country. Then came the breaking point. One night in the studio, Waylon lost it and shouted, "You're too stoned to play straight." Willie didn't fire back, he just smiled, said nothing, but that silence cut deep. Their friendship cracked that night and never healed. During a joint interview in the early 80s, Waylon half-joked to reporters that Willie was a hippie in cowboy boots who forgot where he came from. The press laughed, but Willie didn't. He walked away quietly after the cameras stopped rolling, and that was it. He never called again. When Waylon passed in 2002, Willie didn't show up to the funeral. Instead, he sent flowers and a note that read, "See you on the road somewhere." Those close to him said that was Willie's final goodbye, a peaceful way to hide the truth that the wound had never really healed. Number 4, Toby Keith, the patriot who pushed too far. Willie Nelson didn't just dislike Toby Keith, he flat out couldn't stand what Toby turned country music into. Their fight wasn't about melody or lyrics, it was pride, politics, and what music should stand for. Willie once said, "A guitar should never wave a flag," and everyone knew exactly who that jab was meant for. Their clash started in the early 2000s, right after Toby dropped Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue. The song became an anthem for some, but for Willie, it was propaganda wearing a cowboy hat. At a veteran benefit concert in Austin, Willie showed up to play for unity, not division. But then Toby took the stage, waving flags, shouting slogans, and turning the show into a campaign rally. Willie watched from backstage, furious. When Toby walked off, Willie stopped him cold and said, "You're using music to fight, not to heal." Toby laughed and kept walking. And that was the moment everything ended between them. From then on, Willie refused to play any festival or charity show that had Toby's name on it. Behind the scenes, he called Toby's act a commercial wrapped in camouflage. Years later, Toby tried to make peace through a mutual friend, sending word that he'd meant no harm. Willie never responded. He just told his crew, "I've met louder men, but not many emptier ones." After that, a quiet rule settled in Nashville. If Toby Keith was on the poster, Willie Nelson was out. Number 5, Merle Haggard, the friend who crossed the line. When Merle Haggard took a jab at Willie Nelson, it wasn't just another artist throwing shade, it was a brother cutting deep. These two men had shared buses, motel rooms, and songs that built the outlaw country movement brick by brick. But somewhere between the miles and the memories, Merle forgot that Willie never forgets. It started small. A few jokes during interviews about how Willie's weed activism had turned him into a mascot instead of a musician. At first, Willie brushed it off. He'd heard worse. But then, Merle said it again, this time live on stage, with Willie sitting just a few feet away. "Weed's a lazy man's crutch," Merle said into the mic, and the crowd erupted in laughter. Willie didn't laugh. He just kept strumming his guitar, finished the set, and walked straight to the tour bus. That silence said it all. From that night on, their bond was broken, not with words, but with a wound that music could never fix. Behind the scenes, everyone could feel the tension. The joint album Willie and Merle had quietly planned just vanished. No explanation, no announcement, it simply disappeared from the schedule. Willie's manager started rejecting Merle's calls one by one, while fans kept begging to know when the two legends would reunite. They never did. Years later, when Merle tried to make peace, Willie's only response was quiet but sharp. Some things you don't joke about. It wasn't rage anymore, it was heartbreak. When Merle passed in 2016, Willie called him one of the greats, but never one of my best friends. That missing phrase said everything. Their brotherhood ended not with a fight, but with silence that no song could ever fix. Number 6, Kris Kristofferson and the words Willie never forgave. Can one sentence really destroy 40 years of friendship? For Willie Nelson and Kris Kristofferson, it did. These two were more than partners, and they were brothers who'd survived fame, heartbreak, and decades of wild roads together. But one careless line changed everything. It happened at a private fundraiser in the mid-2000s, a smoky room filled with songwriters, whiskey glasses, and half-hidden reporters. Willie had just finished performing a soft political ballad about farm workers and war. When he stepped off stage, Kris, half buzzed and surrounded by friends, leaned in and said, "Willie's turned into more of a mascot than a musician." Laughter broke out, but not from Willie. He heard it. Witnesses said he froze for a second, then turned and walked straight outside without saying a word. By the next morning, his assistant had canceled their upcoming duet. After that, every call from Kris went unanswered. When people later asked about the fallout, Willie only said, "Sometimes words don't fade, they stain." That was all he ever revealed publicly. Kris tried to apologize through a mutual friend, but Willie wouldn't take the call. "You don't get to call me brother after that," he said quietly. And just like that, 4 decades of loyalty vanished overnight. Number 7. Kid Rock, the wild one who crossed the line. When Willie Nelson agreed to record with Kid Rock, fans thought it'd be a wild, once-in-a-lifetime collaboration. But what was supposed to be fun turned into one of the ugliest studio fallouts of Willie's career. They met in Nashville around 2008 during Kid Rock's so-called Southern Outlaw phase. He pitched Willie a bold idea, a loud, rebellious anthem that mixed country grit with rock chaos. Willie, always open to taking chances, said yes. But the moment Kid Rock walked into the studio, beer in hand, blasting his own tracks over the monitors, Willie knew something was off. Musicians there that night said Kid ignored every bit of direction, yelling, "Let it be raw," while drowning Willie's vocals under distortion. Willie tried to bring some balance, suggesting a softer arrangement, but Kid just laughed and said, "Come on, old man, loosen up." That was the final straw. Without saying a word, Willie took off his headphones, stood up, and walked out. The session ended right there, silence echoing through the studio. The track was never released. Later, when a journalist asked what happened, Willie only said, "Some fires are better left unlit." But behind that calm answer was real disgust. Since that day, Willie has turned down every single offer to work with Kid Rock again. In his eyes, Kid wasn't an outlaw, just another loud voice with nothing true to say. After decades of peace, rebellion, heartbreak, and betrayal, Willie Nelson stands where few legends ever do, alone but unshaken. 92 years of songs, scars, and lessons have carved him into something bigger than fame itself. The world still sees the braids, the guitar, and the smile, but behind that calm face is a man who's buried too many friendships and watched the industry he helped build twist into something unrecognizable. To outsiders, his grudges might look bitter, but to those who know him, they're proof of how much he still cares. Willie never hated without reason. Every feud, every fallout came from protecting something sacred. Truth in music, honesty in lyrics, and respect for the roots of country. When others chased glitter and politics, Willie chased the soul. He never wanted perfect, he wanted real. Even now, at 92, his memory is sharp and his words still carry weight. When he speaks, Nashville listens, whether they admit it or not. Because beneath every story, every silence, there's a lesson he keeps teaching. You can forgive a mistake, but you can't forgive the loss of meaning. Those who crossed him, Brooks, Twain, Jennings, Keith, Haggard, Kristofferson, and Kid Rock, each left a different kind of mark. Some cut deep, some faded over time, but all of them remind us that even legends bleed when loyalty breaks. Still, Willie isn't a man defined by anger. He's defined by truth. And maybe that's what makes his story so powerful. He's not out to destroy anyone. He's just done pretending everything's fine when it's not. For him, peace isn't about smiling through the pain. It's about standing tall, guitar in hand, and saying what everyone else is too scared to say. So whether you see him as the last outlaw or the last honest man in country music, one thing's undeniable. Willie Nelson never sold his soul for fame, and he never bowed to the glitter. He stayed true when the rest went chasing spotlights. And maybe that's the real reason his story hits so hard, because in a world full of noise, Willie still knows the value of silence. The kind that speaks louder than any song and lasts longer than any apology. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button if you felt something real, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.